Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. This is going to be a show that I'm going to be talking about for a long time. As a Coast to Coast AM fan, avid watcher of Ancient Aliens on the History Channel, I've already known about his work. He's an experiencer who has an amazing perspective that everyone can learn from. And he just released his latest literary work, Initiation, The Spiritual Transformation of the Experiencer. Reverend Michael J.S. Carter is next. Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
That is right.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, so Chris is here. Austin is out because it is Kaylee's birthday. So from all of us to Kaylee, happy birthday. We hope you have a good time. Take care, Austin. Don't let him get too drunk there at Applebee's. All right. Yeah. All right. So everybody, at this time, if I didn't give enough of an introduction, please welcome Reverend Michael J.S. Carter to the show. How are you, sir?
Hey guys, it's good to be here. Been looking forward to this.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Absolutely.
Man, as we're doing the thing, I'm trying to like click, trying to get stuff together. But
Yeah.
I read your first book about extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. That one, I read that one. Fantastic book. I absolutely love it. I could see why everybody from Whitley Strieber, is saying how much they love this one, how this is a great piece. And then we'll get into it too. But I mean, the main reason why I wanted to have you on is because if I'm not mistaken, it was a week and a half ago that you released your book.
Yeah, August 2nd, which is interesting. It was my brother's birthday.
That's a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where's my calendar?
Well, man, we're in. This is September.
I know.
Can you believe it? So it just goes. We're in the ballpark. It's pretty new.
Exactly. I was close enough. Yeah. It's like the horseshoe game. Yeah. Oh yeah. But that one, initiation, the spiritual transformation of the experiencer. What we'll get into with this one, and I've got several questions kind of lined up we'll get to that part, but this is something that, I mean, literally is the Bible for anybody who's had an experience and needs to get a starting point, like how to cope, where do I go, what do I do? And as somebody like yourself that has such an amazing gift for helping people with these things. I mean, as we'll get through this thing, people start realizing you were the perfect person. I mean, you said this on Victor Furman's show, where when you went to write your books, you just finally got to a point where what I need to write about is me. My story is what needs to get out there.
Yeah, I was scared to death, but yeah, I did. And first of all, you're very kind. I was going through this thing, Craig and Chris, when I did extraterrestrial, alien scriptures. I wrote a book called A New World If You Can Take It. And I don't know whether it was subconscious or whatever, but I said, okay, I want to switch gears because, I was starting to get known as the UFO minister. And I and which is fine now looking back. But I wanted to know that I want people to know I had other interests. So I wrote a meditation manual and I wrote a book on affirmative prayer. And it just seemed like it was where my stage of evolution was going. And then this book came up. Some friends of mine had said, "Oh, you're going to write another book. You got another book in you." And I kept saying, "No, I don't know whether it was auto-suggestion, but here I am." And, it's a handbook is what it is. But I just needed to write about my experience because so many people have these things and they're afraid to talk. They don't know who to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, you're a lifelong experiencer.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get it. I mean, you had starting, I want to say it was 1989, if I'm not mistaken.
It was December 28th.
Yeah, and you had two major books. And like I said, if you want, take a few minutes for the people that aren't familiar with that. If you want to just break into the, kind of like a little bit of your backstory. I mean, it's one of those things. I could tell it from the stuff that I've written down, but why not hear it directly from the guy that experienced it?
Well, and excuse me,
Yeah.
I swallowed something out the wrong way. I was raised in the Baptist tradition, brother, and it's everything. It's freer than it looks. There's a lot of hallelujah and carry on, but when they stop doing that, it's us versus them. It's saved, I'm saved, and you're not. And that worked for a while. And I want to be clear, my parents still follow that tradition. I have friends who do. It just stopped working for me in that form. So I didn't believe in anything if it wasn't in this book here. And so, of course, when people had said to me, on occasion, do you believe in life on other planets? I would go, "What are you talking about? Well, you're not." And people would say, "Really?" Almost like they were shocked that I didn't. So I must have looked more open-minded than I was. And I had, I just started watching. Don't laugh. In the last 4 years, I just started watching some of Star Trek. People are like, "What are you, under a rock?" But this is where I was. I was under a rock. And so, but I had these things that happened. When I was a kid, I used to see these orbs around me all the time, and they would be different colors. And I thought everybody could see them. And sometimes I'd just be in my room and I'd look at them. They'd be circles, and sometimes they'd had a little hole in the middle. Sometimes I would wake up with nosebleeds, which I was always curious about. I was probably not the brightest kid. I would think my ear was bleeding. But I later found out it was my nose that was bleeding. And then, I still do. I started seeing colors around people. And in the summertime, if I'm on the beach and people are, if their skin is darker from the sun or if they're folk of color, if I stare long enough, I can see their skeletal system.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, it was. But as a kid, I just thought like, wow, everybody saw that. So December 28, 1989, I'm fast forwarding. I had no reference for what was happening as a kid. I go to on vacation with my girlfriend at the time, and we went to Mexico, and we took a side trip to the pyramids at Chichen Itza and Tulum. And I had never traveled much, so this was all like, wow. And it was amazing. These pyramids, where were these people getting this information about astronomy, astrology? And so when I got back home, I went to a party. My girlfriend at the time, who later became my first wife, she said, "I'm tired." We got off at JFK, and it was cold. And so she went home, and I kind of wanted to gloat. It was 85, 90 degrees in Mexico. I was really dark, and I was feeling that sun, and I wanted to gloat. So I went to this party. No adult beverages were consumed, at least not by me. And I don't think anybody there did drink anything. Period. There was no alcohol in the house, so I couldn't attribute it to that. And I think I ate like so many deviled eggs. I'm a deviled egg freak. And so I went home.
They're good.
I love them. God forgive me, I love them so much. Anyway, so I even to this day, brothers, I don't know whether I had to go pee or I don't know. but I just felt the energy in the room was very strange. And when I turned around, because I sleep on my stomach, there was a being at the foot of my bed. I can see him or her now. I don't know whether it was a man or a woman. And it was, I mean, I've had someone pull a gun on me. Okay, that will get your attention. But I had never had the fright that I had that night. And this individual was about 4 feet tall, tops. Was a gray-white color, the huge pear-shaped head, very spindly, and had it's like a jumpsuit, a turtleneck. I mean, it was a tunic. It was like Reynolds wrap. That I always remember. It's like his suit was made of Reynolds wrap, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and around him was this cobalt blue light, and around that, like my whole apartment was lit up. Our whole apartment was lit up. And I thought my heart was going to come out of my chest. My girlfriend at the time, and she's my ex-wife, we talked about this just the other night because we were talking about the book, and she remembered it. And so I pulled the covers up over my head and got into the fetal position. Obviously, I'm not your most macho brother in the world. She did not budge. And I felt, first of all, I heard this, like it's the wintertime. I had like this wind, like a whirlwind, and the temperature changed. And my mind was trying to I said, am I outside? Now, this is in the Excelsior Hotel, 45 West 81st Street. It's still there, right across from the planetarium between Columbus Avenue and Central Park West. So this is not in some, remote rural area. This is in Manhattan. And I pulled the covers down, and nobody was there.
That's crazy.
My girlfriend Sandy, and again, we just talked about this literally a couple of days ago, and she said, "I remember that." She said, "I remember I couldn't wake up." She said, "I saw some shadowy people in the room. They were like gray white." She said, "That's all I can remember. And all of a sudden, I had to go to sleep. Just all of a sudden, I went into this deep sleep." And she said, "When I woke up, you were a wreck." And I was. And, but she's a deeply spiritual person. I mean, she didn't laugh at me, she just kind of walked me through it, just being present. And then it started happening with these gray brothers and sisters. Now, I don't know whether where they go back and say, "Boy, you need to check out that brother's apartment" or whatever. But I started seeing other people. But let's stick with this. So then it was a pattern. Sandy worked at night, and so they started coming every full and new moon. I mean, I knew they were coming, and they would paralyze me. And they didn't really talk, these gray white folks, but they would show me pictures. But of what they were doing, but they would paralyze me, and that was the thing. I couldn't move. And one time they stuck a needle in the back of my head, which really hurt. Right here where that hollow part is. Someone told me you can get to the pituitary gland that way. I don't know if you can or not, but I mean, that was some pain. And I was talking to an astrologer friend of mine, and she said, "Look, Michael, this is going to seem crazy to you." I said, "What does seem crazy? I'm seeing little people in my room. What else can seem crazy to me?"
Yeah, I think we already covered that thing. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I go,
yeah. What else is crazy? And she said, "You need to tell them." She said, "When you're home, even if you're by yourself, I'm sure they're around you." She said, "You need to tell these folks that was unacceptable." And I said, "You are a nut." And she probably said, "I'm a nut?" So anyway, I did it. Yeah, you're calling me a nut. So anyway, I did it. I remember Sandy saying, "You were standing in the living room in your underwear, shaking your fist up at the ceiling, screaming." She said, wow. that was a sight. So, but anyway, when they came again, I don't want you to throw up. So please forgive me. So anyway, I don't want you to live with that image. But the next time they came, that was the paralysis, the whole thing. And they showed me a picture of a syringe, the needle. And I felt this little pinprick right here in the crown of my head. Like, you know, like when someone takes your blood and it's a really good nurse and you don't feel anything. And, you know, the next thing, I said, wow, somebody listened to me.
Yeah.
You know, I said, my God, they listened to me. And so, you know, we can go on. I mean, I have many experiences I could share with you, but I did go to a therapist, Dr. Jean Mundy, who let me know that I wasn't crazy. Her name was in the back of a book called Encounters by Dr. Edith Fiore, another PhD mental health professional. And in the back, there was a listing. The book was about people who were having the experiences I was having. And in the back of the book, there was a list by state of people who would talk to people who were having these experiences. I closed my eyes. I went to New York, and I put my hand on, and her name, Jean Mundy's, was there, and she helped me. And then a few years after that, I was at a conference, and the late Bud Hopkins was there, and Bud regressed me as well.
Let me. Can I stop you for a minute?
Before
we get too far past that, you went and seek some mental health. So people that may be listening or who may want to know, like, you know, they didn't deem you crazy. So if somebody needs to get some answers to what they may have going on inside, you know, that they're actually seeing orbs and seeing figures. What is your advice on that? Because you had a good point there. Because people think, no, I see figures when I dream, but that's the only time I see them. And I know I'm not crazy, but if I go see the psychiatrist, they might deem me crazy. And then I just... Yeah.
I would say there's a woman named Yvonne Smith, but she lives in LA. She lives in California. And there's a couple people I mentioned in the back of my book, a couple people. And then if you can get with them, maybe they can refer you, like if you were looking for a therapist anyway. But for me, I needed that. Even if you have a good friend, because part of this is just learning how to listen.
You hit that on the head. Thank you. I just wanted you to clarify that, because some people are so scared in life because they're actually seeing orbs and they just don't know how to deal with it.
Yes. And that's part of your psychic ability that's starting to come. That's what I found out. But you need to, there are a few people I mentioned in the book, but there's, and even in the book, as you're reading, I mentioned some people's work. Dr. Richard Borland, who's a behavioral therapist, very much into this phenomenon. So there's some people in the book, and in the back, there's a little list of people you can contact. And you can also contact me. But a lot of this is just listening. How many times have you had something on your mind? And I know it's happened to me. I've been on both sides of the equation where someone's come to me and they need to chat, and I don't even really say anything. And after about a half hour or so, they go, "Hey, man, thanks for listening. I feel better. I'm glad I talked to you." Because sometimes people just need to get their narrative out, because we all have our stories, whether they're about UFOs or not. Each of us has our story, and it's healing just to be able to have someone take you seriously, not doubt you, or, you know, and just say, "I'm here with you. I'm listening." It's a lot of power in that. And that's what helped me. You know, I did some pastoral care today with someone, and, you know, he had to talk, and he talked for about 45 minutes, but I listened. And, you know, when I needed to get something, I would say, "Okay, can you repeat that?" or whatever. But when he left, he said to me, "You know what? I got what I came for." That's all you need.
That's good. Now,
I needed to be heard.
yeah, I was a little remiss. I jumped right into it. So excited. I forgot to mention. All right. So not only that, you are an ordained interfaith minister.
Yes.
You got your master's in divinity from, I think it was Union Theological Seminary.
In New York City, one of the top seminaries in the country.
And you're also you're currently minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Suwannee Valley.
Yeah.
So I want to get that. Michael, JSCarter.com is the website. You can go there. Barnes & Noble, most people go to Amazon now. Yeah. But I just showed the book right up there. So everybody go there, purchase this book, support him. I wanted to make sure I got that before we get too far into it. I was just thinking, like, I forgot to do that. And we're already at 20 minutes in.
No, thank you. I know the time is going.
I know you talked about it a little bit. And one of the things that I really wanted to get to, especially based off your book, that initiation. So where, as an experiencer yourself, so how do you start the process of learning to handle what has happened to you or what has happened to them? Say, just anybody you find, like the guy you just talked to, say he just had an experience. How does he start besides going to Amazon and buying initiation? Mm-hmm. Besides that,
I think now he knows he has someone he can talk to. That's number one. I told someone today who had an interesting experience of high strangeness to maybe look for if you could get a hypnotherapist or past life regressionist, because what they can do is bring those memories up. The other thing I stress is to develop an inner life, a spiritual life. If you don't like that word, if that's too woo-woo, an inner life by meditation, having some quiet time, spending some time in nature. I also said to them that if you can, get some sage, get some sweetgrass, sage your surroundings, especially the corners, because a lot of spirits and a lot of people, the energy mm-hmm. gathers in corners. And, like on ships and stuff, they don't have corners. It's just all round. I don't know if that's the reason, but those are things you can start doing to empower yourself. I would say the meditation is key to anything, because you need the quiet time for the stuff that's buried in you to come up.
And that's kind of like a fault. Yeah. And that's awesome, because my follow-up for that too was on the thing. Do you find that it's better for a recent contactee, abductee to go through and just immediately jump into something like a group, find like-minded, people that have experienced the same thing, or is it better to do a measured step-by-step approach, or is it kind of just based on the person?
I think it's where the person is and their, what feels better for them. I know at some point you want to get in a group, and it doesn't have to be a formal thing, but if you can get around like-minded people, I think that is crucial, because that's where the healing takes place. Even if you have to do it by Skype, even if you have to do it on Zoom, people may be in other states, but you get together maybe once a month. And you just say, this is the check-in. How's it going? What's going on? Did you have a visit? How's it going with your family? Because it impacts all of those. There might be, just like you have children of alcoholics or children of whatever, a 12-step thing, it may be good, because a lot of people who have these experiences, it's a high rate of divorce and separation, because you're trying to find out what's going on. And if your partner, especially if he or she is not having those experiences, they're going to need support too. Absolutely. Because this stuff is, I'm telling you, it's strange. People walking through your walls, or you're missing time, or, or you're having these dreams, because there is a post-traumatic. I mean, now I've integrated it by doing those things, going to a therapist, continuing and developing a spiritual life. But it took me 20 years. And even now, it's hard for me to especially if I'm here alone. My daughter's here now. She's 15. She just got in from school, but you know, it was hard for me to be in the house by myself, or if I heard a noise, or you know, I wouldn't want to go to sleep. It was hard for me to turn the light out, as if keeping the light on would keep them from coming. But it took me 20 years. I still have that. Last night, I did a radio show from 10 to midnight. I was tired. I had to be at church early this morning. And I remember, you know, like closing the blinds and you know, let me just sleep here for a while. And then I said, okay, I'll turn the light out. It's not rational, but because they can come in anytime they want. But for me, it took me 20 years, man. 20 years. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
that's crazy.
yeah. But in my
Careful, you term the word by the way. Sorry about that.
well, no, I mean, for me, you know, what about people who had really bad experiences?
I know.
Where, you know, where you get anal probes and, you know, you get your sperm and ovum taken. I didn't have anything like that. I look at my experiences as positive, even though I had to go through that fear. Because what it made me do was, it made me, because a friend of mine said to me, you got to start peeling the onion. But outside of the thing in the back of my head, these folks never hurt me. They never did anything to hurt me. As a matter of fact, I felt like my life was getting better because it gave me some depth. I was starting to really cultivate a spiritual life before they came, but definitely after. And so it made me say, Michael, where else in your life do you let fear block you? That was the lesson for me. And of course, I could write books on all these on all these things. So it made me, I had to start looking at my fear of everything and saying, you're going to have to step through that. Or what is that really about? So it was a self-exploration thing.
Ironically, I seen something yesterday, and I don't know if it just, you know, with algorithm, it just pulled it up. But would you say your dreads act as an antenna? Because I was seeing something that on a cultural standpoint where they say dreadlocks, it opens up your third eye and it acts as an antenna. So don't cut your hair because it's a strength. Do you think that is one of the reasons why you're so in tune to?
You know, that's a great question. When they were coming, I didn't have locks, and I've cut my locks. They used to be down the ear. They come here. I just put them in my daughter braided them for me, so you can't see them. Looks like I cut my hair. Well, you know, you see it with Native American and Native American cultures that there was something about hair is powerful. You know, there's the old stereotype of, you know, the woman in the office. She's got a little skirt on and everything, and she's got her glasses on, and she looks kind of geeky or what have you. When she takes those glasses out and shakes her hair out, guys are like, you know, if you're a straight man, you're like, wow. Okay. Now, part of that is a stereotype, but part of it is that there is something, because it's energy, and it's like an antenna. But I got to tell you, and I did it more just for my own, it was outside of my spiritual growth. It was a result of my spiritual growth. I want to just have a natural hairstyle. But there is something about the hair, but they come to you, man. I mean, my hair was a little longer than this without the dreads when they were coming to me.
Okay.
You know, I used to wear fade. Like, you know, sometimes I had it so faded it looked like I was a Green Beret or something. You know what I'm saying? So the hair can do that, but these folk come, you're bald, you can have a mohawk, but they come. But I think I read something
Getting that way, bald.
what you're talking about, that your hair draws that energy.
Yeah.
It attracts. There's something to that. They did something with Vietnam vets, and some of these brothers were walking point, and one of them was Native, I remember. I forget what nation, and he didn't cut his hair. And again, part of that is stereotype too. Well, you're Native, so you got to be a good tracker. But there are some folk who, you know, and they were used to being in the woods. And when your life's at stake, you kind of use all your senses.
No, there's a question. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. M.A. Allen, he was when you had
Yeah,
your-
someone
yeah.
named M.A. Allen. Yeah, yes. No, well, that's a great question now that I'm going a little deeper. I did feel my mortality in the sense I didn't feel like I was going to be killed, but this was like something out of this world. I'm in my house. There's someone who walked in my house. I mean, I have had earthly experiences when I was, I knew I was going to be in danger. It was just the bizarreness of them being in my house. I say them, but I only saw one. My ex she said she saw other figures before she went into her deep sleep. I think it's the bizarreness of the way this brother looked, and it could have been a woman. I'm just using it. And the light was lit up, and it was my mind could not register. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't an earth person. And so, yeah, but the paralysis, the body was paralyzed. And some of that may be to protect them. Some people, they struggle. They may pick up something. You never know. But it was a very frightening experience.
So the orb that's been coming to you for the longest, is it the same one every time, or it comes in a different manner every time it comes to you?
No, let me be clear. The orbs were coming. I saw them when I was a kid. And now that I'm looking back, they were like the colors of chakras. I mean, some of them were purple. They were like big lights. And it was like I could see the three-dimensionalness of my room. Like I could put my hand out. And it was a very weird thing. It's like when a psychic, you can see the dimensions in this space here where there's nothing, but there is something. And they would just float around. They would just float. And they could have been beings. They could have, every consciousness doesn't have a body. But they were around me a lot as a kid. Cool. And I was thinking, were they beings? Were they just from another dimension? I think there was an intelligence there. So no, they don't still come. But what has remained and what has been heightened, my intuition has been heightened, and even my energy levels by having them in the room. When they come visit me, my energy is off the charts. And when I started teaching Reiki and doing Reiki, I had people say to me, is this Reiki energy coming out of your hands, or what is this? Because this feels really different. And I just attribute it to them. Because when they're in your room, when you're within a few feet of them, they vibrate on such a level that your heart starts to beat fast. I mean, you can feel the difference. Now, some of these people, you could get on an elevator, and not unless you were sensitive to energy. I mean, I've seen 2 times blonde people, and they looked human. But, I mean, there was something different about them. But if you're if you're not sensitive to energy, you could get on an elevator. You wouldn't even know. But there's something odd about this system. I don't know what that is, and because they all don't look like the little Gray brothers and sisters. They don't all look like that. I had, if you read my book, I had a healing in 2013 on July 4th of a blood clot, and this brother looked like he was from Sweden. Like he was from Sweden, except he was really tall. I've seen reptilians on 2 occasions. I've seen the Arcturians, the blue people. And back in 2019, I saw a praying mantis person right there in my room.
Wow.
I'll tell you something more freaky. I'm not going to get into it because my daughter last year, she told me that she got up to go to the bathroom around 3 o'clock. And I had left her in the apartment by myself. Left her in the apartment by herself. I would never leave my daughter in this apartment by herself. And I said, what? She said, Daddy, why didn't you tell me you left? She said, I looked in your room and your bed was neatly pulled back and you were not in this apartment. She said there was a light shining in your room and in the living room here. And she said, I thought maybe it was a full moon. I said, baby, there was no full moon last night. So whatever happened, I left and came back.
Wow. Yeah,
and she will tell you that. And this was just last year. Because they come when they come, man. But I've gone years when I don't see them. I may see them in a dream or something. But when the things I'm telling you now, it wasn't a dream. A couple of times they touched me. So it wasn't like, oh man, Michael, did you have too much scotch or whatever? These folks are real. And I don't know, some of them, listen, you think that's freaky. You think that's freaky. You know, some of these folks don't even need a ship. The thing about these star people is they have a vehicle. There's some people that can just come, they don't need a ship.
they're just here.
Yeah, not unless it's a hologram or something. So, you know, I'm out now, you know, but back then I would never talk about this. I presented, when I wrote my book, it was my master's thesis. I'm surprised Union let me get away with it, but they did. I'm so grateful, because they could have said, young man, you're not graduating from here with this tripe. You better come up with another topic. And why don't you go talk to somebody while you're at it? But they were enthusiastic about it. And, you know, my marriages, you know, we separated, but it wasn't because of this. But I was very fortunate. But I had some understanding people with me, and partners who've had paranormal experiences. I was very fortunate. But I know people who are having these things, and who do you talk to? You know, your husband or your wife or your partner. If they're not ready to hear it, then you go outside that circle. And then what happens is maybe they form bonds outside. And then, you know, you don't want that to influence the relationship. You want to be able to talk, not unless you're just one of those people who say, well, go see your friends. I don't want to hear that. I'm just going to have dinner. I'll see you when you get back. Okay. But it affects everybody.
Now, Chris will be back. He forgot to put quarters in his internet machine, so he just randomly drops out from time to time. We always just joke around because he'll just instantly just like drop. It just drops off. We're like, it's like those old hotel rooms where you used to have the rumble beds. You know, you put it in there and you shake around. Yeah, it's like he just forgets to feed the meter on his internet. It just suddenly shuts off. And like that, he is back. See, there he is, right there.
Welcome back, brother.
I haven't figured out what it is yet.
Yeah, just got to put the quarters in. That's what you just got to do. Yeah, no, what you kind of touched on that, and that was one of the things, you know, because you know you're really open about, you know, your relationships that you've had, and I wondered if, you know, through that experience, you know, I feel like that also makes you highly qualified in that aspect to help talk to people about this, because you want to talk about something that has to be a strain on a relationship. I mean, we'll just use myself. Like if I have an experience, how does my wife cope with that when she can't relate to what I'm going through? Right.
And I mean, listen, relationships are tough anyway. Okay. Without that, I mean, two people living together, you know, what do you do with, you know, just what do you do? How do we coexist? How do we deal with our coming from two different family systems and, you know, that kind of thing. And then you throw this into it. And so communication, pardon me, as cliche as it sounds, is key. Mm-hmm. And there comes a time that if, you know, you give it as much time as you can, and if it doesn't work, then you have to make different arrangements. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you outgrow, or sometimes people outgrow each other. And so if you can remain friends or whatever, that's fine. I remained friends with my first wife. My daughter here is from my second marriage. We're still close friends. We're not as close as with my first wife, but you know, we're adults. You got to coexist. But relationships are key, and we're always in relationship on some level. But with this phenomenon, or whether you had a near-death experience, you're never the same after this, and you realize that the primary relationship is the relationship with me. Because if I don't know who I am, who do I give to you in the relationship? Because I have no self. And if I don't have a self, I'm not. You can't be in relationship with someone. And so whether it's a near-death experience or maybe you saw Sasquatch, whatever it was that changed your view of reality, what it does is that you start to peel the onion. Who am I really? Warts and all. What am I here to really do? If you notice in the book, I talk about some of the indicators, but most people, not all, but most people have said on some level, I want to be part of the solution. I want to be significant. I want to contribute to raising the frequency of the planet. You may not use those words. I want to help.
Yeah, because you had it in three. You had beliefs, physical, and spiritual indicators.
Yeah, and so now not everybody who says that is an experiencer, but most experiences have said that, whether it was to themselves, whether it was to the whole multiverse. They said, I want to make a difference, whether it's about social justice, whether it's about the ecosystem. How do I treat one? Maybe it's about, I worked on Wall Street, not me, I'm just saying, now I want to be a healer. I love massage. I think I've made enough money. I mean, how much money do I need? There's something that shifts, that you say it's bigger than me. And I need to do, because that's what love is about. I'm not talking about kumbaya, let's just hold hands. I mean, there's so many definitions, but I love what M. Scott Peck said. He said, he defines love as when I extend myself for the growth of another human being. When I extend myself, now there are other definitions, so I'm not saying that's the only one, but yeah, I'm willing to grow. Well, if I'm in a relationship, like when I broke up with my first two marriages, I wanted them to be happy. Now, not at the beginning because it was tough. You grieve. Yeah. You say, this is what could have been. I thought I was going to be with you till the grave, but it didn't work out. But you come to a point where you say, I want to be happy, but I want you to be happy whether you're with me or not. And so that's when I extend myself. If you can't be with me, it's okay. But I want what's best for you. I want to be happy. And because to me, this whole journey is about learning to love in the highest sense of the word. And so how do we do that? Sometimes people just grow into that through their meditation. Some people have to get in a car accident and be dead for 20 minutes and come back before it happens. Some people see a ship or whatever, but there's something that triggers that. And it's not for everybody because everybody's on a different way. For me, especially now with the way the world is, I have to stay on the love train, like OJ said. You got to stay on the love train. Because if we don't, even if it's a flawed love, you can learn to love deeper, then the gig is up. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. It's over.
And that's kind of what I was, getting at. It's just where it's, it's really, because you want to talk about just human nature. It's like you have that bitterness that instantly wants to take you when you have those type of things that occur. And just to be able to move past that is such a challenge for people.
Well, I think this, for me, so this is for Michael, I'm very attracted to Eastern philosophy and Buddhist thought. And so there are things that I have learned, for instance, on Sunday when I speak, I'm not trying to change anybody. I'm just trying to plant a seed. And if you agree with the seed, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. See, one of the things as I grew is that I stopped having to be right. That was a biggie. That brought me inner peace. But the other thing is, I'm not trying to help other people in that way. This is what I mean when I say that. If I give you some wisdom and I get angry with you because you're not behaving the way I think you should, then that's not really giving you wisdom, that's control. And I have so many friends who are trying to change the world. There are 9 billion people, maybe more, on this planet. Everybody's not at the same spiritual level.
No.
Can't expect it. Maybe in another lifetime, I was acting like an a-hole or whatever. I'm sure I was, and not to mention this one. But there's a Rumi quote that I love. It's called, "When I was young and clever, I wanted to change the world. Now that I'm older, I just need to change myself. That's all I need to do is change myself. I don't need to be worried about you. I mean, if I pass on something and you pass on something to me, if I'm wrong, I have a right to be wrong. Maybe that doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm not at that stage of evolution yet. But I find that people lose their inner peace, if they ever had it, because but we do it under the guise of, I'm trying to help them learn a lesson. You don't need to help them learn a lesson. Life does that. I know what you believe by how you treat me. You can be Buddhist. You can say, I'm a Buddhist, or I'm in church every Wednesday night at Bible study, and I'm at the mosque on Friday, and I'm at the temple. And you can do all. I know people who do all that, and there's some mean-spirited folk. But I know what you believe by how you treat all sentient beings, how you treat the planet, and then I stay in my lane. If there's something I want to march for, I do it. If there's a cause, if I need to write a check to something or do something, I do it. But that's not my whole life. That's part of it. I know people who they have all these psychic gifts, and they're very, very, very talented. But psychic gifts, maybe you're into those are the tools that can come with spirituality, but they're not spirituality itself, and people get enamored with that. I know some people who do Reiki. I know some people who are very gifted psychics, and their life is a shambles. You couldn't pay me to go to them. Doesn't make them bad people. I just don't want that energy in my life.
Yep.
So those are some of the things that I got from this experience, but I was already walking this path before they came. I guess he said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, or when the student is ready, the teacher can disappear. But so it wasn't like they waved a wand and all of a sudden, I had all these eureka moments, but it's a hard journey. That's why a lot of people don't take that path, because it's a lot of reflection and looking at stuff and, and like I said, that's where I am at this lifetime, and hopefully that'll help me next lifetime. But there were lifetimes when I acted like an ass, or maybe I killed someone, maybe I murdered someone. It's a progression. And people are using the word lesson a lot, I know, at the bottom of the screen. And but lessons go from lifetime to lifetime.
Yes.
And all your soulmates are not your lovers or your best friends. Some of your soulmates are some of your enemies. Or you want to talk about lessons. It's easy to talk about lessons when things are going good. What about the lessons when they're not so good, or when someone does something heinous? My brother was murdered back in 1995 in a robbery. He was robbed and killed. They never caught the person who did it. But I had to learn. Okay, Michael, you talk about love. You talk about forgiveness. Let's see. It's like the old Buddha saying, you think you're enlightened? Go spend a week with your family.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
no, it's one of the things I wanted to get into. Looking at the time, we're not going to have time for this. So, I mean, if later on, if you would mind, I'd love to have you back on a later date. Yeah. If you're up for it. Yeah. Because it's one of the things
the hour just goes too fast, man.
I know. You and me have a little similarities to. I went to Portland Bible College, up in Portland, Oregon, and I went to classes, and you kind of had the same thing. There was like an aha moment where all of a sudden I'm like, this does not make any sense. These are not working. And like I said, there's some of the questions we got to, continue with the initiation for your book here. But like I said, on that show, I'd love to get on that one too, especially with you on those things, because there's so many things
Do you
that.
want to go longer tonight? Can you go longer?
Well, unfortunately, we got a show. No, we got another show after this one. So, what is just like down the road? I mean, it's I'll get with your schedule, see what you have. I'd love to have you on again, and we could continue more about this too.
Yes, that'd be great.
But that's what I said. We get to that because I know we could fill another hour just on.
Oh,
that.
just easily. Yeah. And notice how the conversation shifted. We went from talking about experiences in UFOs to talking about life, because that's what this is all about. Is how do I live my? You see how it just shifted over? When I do my conferences, Brother Chris, Brother Craig, and I made, and it came out with my books. When I went, I said, I'm tired of talking about UFOs, so I'm not tired of talking about them, but I want to talk about how it's changed me. When I started talking, I may spend an hour showing slides of extraterrestrials and biblical stuff and what have you, and people are riveted. But the best part is when we start getting into the spirituality, because whether you've had experiences or not, you have to learn. We all have to learn how to live, how to coexist, and that's where the spirituality. And people are. I can't tell you. People are riveted to that. It only happened once. I got a standing ovation in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's not why I do this work. It was Travis Walton was there. I was there. Steve Bassett was there. Kathleen Martin was there. We were all, and I deliberately said to myself, after we can do all this stuff, and the last 30 minutes, I wanted to talk about the spiritual life. And I couldn't believe it. These people got up, because people want to know, how do I live my values? When all this is said and done, when I hang up with you, I'm going to go talk to my daughter. I got to get up tomorrow and do. That's real life.
Exactly.
Not that this isn't, but you can't live in that heightened state. They're not coming to me every night and all this stuff. But I can take what I've learned about acceptance, about accountability, responsibility, and I can try and live it. And I think that's one of the reasons they came to me.
That's cool. Because one of the things that too, before we get run out of time, I wanted to really get to you, because why do you think the minority community has so few contactee stories? Is it because it's a stigma, like I can't talk about this?
Yeah, we talked about it last night a little bit. I know we're running out of time. Okay. No,
you're good. You're good. It's like I said, we got at least like another 10, 15 minutes, but yeah. So.
Oh, we do?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just didn't want to get so derailed on that other topic, and we never get back. Yeah.
Give me 30 seconds. Okay.
Okay. You're good.
Okay.
All right. So
Craig, go out and come back in.
Me?
Yeah, you sound like a robot.
Okay. I can do that. So keep talking. Don't dead air.
So he said, the guest said give him 30 seconds, but I had a question as far as like Craig asked him the question, but in the minority community, we don't want people to think we're crazy. So I'm hoping he's going to touch on that as well when he comes back, because they say mental health in the minority community. You don't want people to think, oh, he sees extraterrestrials, he sees stuff. But
all right, do I sound better?
I wish I could see the things.
All right. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, like you said, it's one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't want to get derailed on that whole topic.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, we talked about this last night. I was a guest on another show, and there was a woman of color who's a psychic and had just recently had experience. Where I was going with this was I went back and I rewatched Steven Spielberg's Taken, and there was a scene in there when they were talking about Betty and Barney Hill, and it was talking to this military intelligence guy, and his subordinate said, "Well, sir, do you want me to investigate?" And he said, "No. If you bring the colors in, it muddies the water." And I thought that was an interesting take, because then you have to you're dealing with, the social cultural situation that we have in race relations in the country, and then you throw the UFO topic on top of it. I'm not saying that he was right, but I'm saying I know some people who won't even ask the question you asked because they're afraid that we're going, well, no, it's not UFO like. Now we're talking about race. Well, we live in America. You have to talk about race. But there is the stigma because of where is Jesus in all this? I mean, and that's just, that's just the way it is. I mean, I do Reiki. My sister, I love her to death. My half sister, she's an evangelical Christian. It's from the devil. That's from the devil. How are you sure? Are you sure these space people aren't from the devil? And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny in a way, but in some way it's sad because we miss opportunities to grow. I think it's underreported, but I tell you what, being on Ancient Aliens, I can't tell you the emails and people reaching out to me, people of color saying, "Hey, first of all, I said there's a man of color on Ancient Aliens. There's a person of color," and they say, "Let me tell you what happened to me." And so a lot of there's more contacts than people are talking about, but that is that stigma. There is that stigma.
And also, when you left, when you had to go do something, I touched on why
I just
you
had
were
to run
gone.
to the bathroom. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I touched on, basically in the minority community, because I'm African American myself, that you say something to people and they don't understand it, you're crazy. So in the family, you tell somebody that, they keep it a secret. Oh, I think what's his name's going nutty.
Yeah.
We're not gonna, so that's why they say one of the biggest things in the African American community is mental health. If you think somebody's mental, you need to get them some help. But that we don't say nothing. They be like, "Oh, well, you don't tell nobody else that." Just
Well, you
keep
know
it to
why? No, you're right, brother. You're right, Chris. And it's not just with the African American community, but it's on steroids in the African American communities because we have so many other problems in the first place. And then some of them self-inflicted, some of them inflicted by the country, but some of them is, you got to be strong. Take that to Jesus. Jesus, everything. It's Jesus. Sometimes Jesus wants you to go to the therapist, right? Sometimes Jesus may want you to go to that regressionist. So because UFO stuff is seen as a white person's thing, I remember the few people of color when I was coming up who were really concerned about the environment. Oh, that's white folks stuff. You need to be considered about racism. That's some white folks stuff. And so it's almost countercultural to the African American community. If you like, it's better obviously, but if you like classical music, oh, that's white people music. See, so it's like you're trying to spread your wings and people are putting a top over it. No, you're not supposed to get into that. I got to look at your NAACP card. Are you really black?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
You see UFO. Oh, what's going on, Michael? So that's that stigma, and I'm too old to worry about it now. But it does hurt sometimes when your own will not acknowledge. But I will say this, brothers, it's not overwhelming. But I notice now before COVID, I go to a conference to speak. I do see some little flies in the buttermilk, as it were. I do see some folk of color there, not a lot, and I realize that I don't know who this brother is. He hosts a paranormal show. He's a man of color, and he used to be a CNN reporter or anchor person, bald-headed guy. I don't know who he is. I don't want. But yeah. So that's it. We just got to get past that. There's only one. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but I've been asked that if we get the money for this show, when I'm out in LA, would you be the host? Of course, I'd be the host. But you got to raise money, that kind of thing. So things are opening up, and I think because of what the government has done, they're not as transparent as they have been. But people don't snicker now when you talk about it, not unless they're just not informed at all. And so I think it's very serious now. It's on the front page of the Washington Post. It's on the New York Times. People don't laugh so much but it's that stigma of that's not what we do. That's not what we do. You know what I mean? You become a vegetarian. Oh, why? That's what white people do. You come on. I know you eat that pork. I know you want that. But you know what I'm saying? It keeps you, Craig. It keeps you down. And some people can be strong and say, "I don't care. This is who I am." And some people say, "Am I really black enough? Or am I really this, that, or the other? Or am I crazy? Is this really white folk stuff?" Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's what it is. Is like, because if you ever go to like the UFO cons, you go to any of these things, you look, it is easily a 90% or more white.
Yeah.
Gathering. Like I said, you look, and every now and then it's rare to see Asian, Latino, black. See anybody walking around. You're just, it's like, it's like you say, your description, the flies in the butt. It's like you clearly spot. And you're like, one, it's awesome to see, but the whole time you're just. If you went just based off appearances, you would think that only white people are abducted.
That's right. No,
that's it.
True.
It's just what. Just apparently the aliens are only after the white people. It is what you would take from these conferences, and that's why when you see these things, you're like, I've got a major experiencer right here on the screen with me, and last I checked, he's not white.
No, not
like,
in this life. I mean, I've been probably in other times, but the thing is that it's even when I call it intergalactic racism, but and I touch on it in alien scriptures. People say to me, "Oh yeah, they look just like us," and I'm saying, "Who looks just like us?" "Oh, the Nordics." "No, they don't look like me." But you're saying they look human. They look like us. Well, don't I look human? Don't I look human? Because basically, it's the blonde, blue-eyed folk, which one of them healed. I'm very thankful, but it's like those are the good folks, but the grays, these other folk, the reptilians, they're bad, and whether it's conscious or not, it's blonde, blue-eyed, good. The angels are blonde, blue-eyed, but anything else is not. And people say, well, they look like us. No, they if you're saying they look human, but if it was an ET of color, and people have seen darker skinned ETs or what have you, would you say that? If you were white too, and you were talking to another white brother or sister, and you saw an ET who looked like me, but was, humanoid, would you say, this brother looked just like us? No, you wouldn't, because you were not conditioned that way.
Yeah,
that's unconscious. Yeah, we're not conditioned that way. We're conditioned to say, "Oh, when you say that he looked like us, you mean he looked white. He had blonde hair, blue eyes. She had blonde hair, blue eyes." So it's all these dynamics that play in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great question. I'm glad you did. It's 2 times. The last night, and this is the first time, one woman was nervous. She said, "I don't want to bring that up." Oh, she was a producer of a show. And I get it, because a lot of people say, "Oh, we're bringing politics and well, it's everywhere around you."
Yeah.
How can you not? It's always under the surface there. Like I said, I just saw the Spielberg thing is, whoever wrote that line, it's in the Spielberg movie, Betty and Barney Hill, they're one of the most famous experiencers, and they wrote a line. Yeah, I have it here. And he says, "No, don't bring the colors in. It muddies the water."
I mean, not in that aspect. I mean, you answered the question very great, so I don't think it muddied any water here.
No. It was just the character did, because it was, it was the girl who saved the world. She was blonde, blue-eyed. Even the genetics were weird, because her mother was redhead, he was dark-haired, and for some reason now you could say, well, her she's half ET, which was the whole premise of the show, and she out ETs the ETs, which was kind of weird. But the woman who saves the planet, the girl Dakota Fanning, is a blonde, blue-eyed. It's But I have hope. Listen, you probably know this. They're doing a TV series on the man who fell to Earth.
Oh, really?
And the brother who's going to do the David Bowie role, what's his name? Iniki Okafor. He was in 12 Years a Slave.
Mhm.
He's
gonna
playing
play
the
the-
lead.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to come out next year. He's playing the David Bowie role. So here we have a man of color who is doing the lead in a remake. So things do change as slow as they do. The last time I saw an extraterrestrial who looked like a person of color was the John Sayles Brother from Another Planet.
Yeah, the only, like you said, kind of like on those roles, the only time I've ever not liked it is when they've picked somebody solely because of the skin color.
Right.
I go, it doesn't. The whole point of a story is the story. You're telling a story, and if you were simply going because you're checking boxes, that's a recipe for a disastrous film.
No question. But
Absolutely disastrous.
But we know this brother is a talented actor.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And that's the thing. When you get somebody that can act, that has this, you're gonna. I mean, Denzel Washington, absolutely a fantastic actor.
So this brother is going to be, and you're seeing it more now. I know for real Trekkie fans, they say it's not Trekkie, it's not original, but things change. But even when I started watching Deep Space Nine, I saw Avery Brooks as a commander of a ship. Mm-hmm. Even looking at Discovery, which I'm loving, Michael Burnham, she's a commander of a ship. She's a person of color, and that's the kind of world that I want to live in, or maybe I've already come from that world where, there are different species and different races of extraterrestrials and humans on the ship, and they work together. Yep. No one says, "Oh my God, did you see that reptilian with that gray?" Ooh. No, we're that's the kind of universe, and the diversity is out there.
I like the way that they made the reptilian character on Star Trek Discovery. He's not ominous evil. It's a bumbling guy that's constantly making mistakes.
Yeah.
I love that the way that they did that one. But
because I've seen reptilians twice. Were they ominous looking? Hell yeah. How can you not be? You're like a reptile on 2 feet. But did they hurt me? No. So we have to look past our preconceived notions of what people have to be like.
Have you ever spoken in Central Florida? I mean, every time I look up a convention, UFO or something of that effect, I don't see much in Florida. I mean, we have a big convention center. Have you ever spoke here in this area?
No, I haven't. And I gotta tell you, it's interesting. The play, the people where I got that ovation, the people who produced that, one of the women was Black, but she never called me back. It's interesting. I get, I did, I did Gaia TV for George Noory, and I went out to Contact in the Desert, and I never got called back. So it's just interesting. I'm like, well, and at that time I wasn't the person I am now as far as a draw. I was just, but had been on Ancient Aliens, and I guess that's how I got in. But and then there's a lot of the way they set all that up. But no, there's so many conferences. Well, now we have COVID, so I don't know how that would work. But I'm hoping that when this dies down, because I love talking live to people, and we're talking about what we're talking about, not so much the race, but just the spirituality of it.
Yeah, we'll definitely, like next time we have you on, we'll definitely touch on the thing because there's so much.
I'll
look at the schedule, like I said, because we definitely have dates open, starting in October and November as well too. So like I said, I'll get with you and I'll see.
I'd love to come back. I really would. Just let me know.
Awesome.
And we'll look at the schedules.
Okay. Well, everybody, as we're wrapping up here, need to go to michaeljscarter.com. He has got all of his information right there. Amazon.com. Purchase the books. I will bring that up again here.
Yeah, go to Barnes and Nobles. They're in some bookstores too, but I don't know. They just said select bookstores.
Yeah.
But definitely Amazon and Barnes and Nobles.
Yep. So there's the latest book we're talking about, Initiation, the Spiritual Transformation of the Experiencer. That's one I can bring up here. He's got his other ones here. Let's see if we've got. I like it every now and when they do this, and you have to sit there and click over.
There they. Oh wow, there they are. Yeah, they got all of them.
There you go. So you got a new world. If you can take it, the alien scriptures, and we'll touch a little bit more on this one on the next one too. Because I
got one on prayer. I guess if you scroll down,
God consciousness.
That's a meditation manual, and that one's about prayer and healing.
Metaphysics of Spiritual Healing,
Yes.
Power of Affirmative Prayer.
Got a question. If somebody wants to get a signed copy, do you have book plates or do you sign copies if they send it to you? P.O. Box?
You know, yeah, okay. I like it just came out. I know you got to go. I had 15 books. Some of them I owed to people because they're in the book. Those books, I just ordered 7 more today because I only have this one. So in answer to your question, they could send it to me. But if I knew they were going to get them, they would have to let me know ahead of time because it takes like 10 days for them to even get them to me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So thank you, everybody. People
Yep.
are thanking me. Thank you.
Yep. Mike.
But I could.
Allen's there. You know, just got.
But if I knew like 12 people wanted them, I would order 12, and then sign them, and then I would include the shipping, and then I could mail them to them.
Okay.
Otherwise, they have to buy them on Amazon and send them to me, and I sign them and send them back. That costs money too.
Either way, yeah, no, that's one of those things. Definitely gives you an excuse to go to one of the locations where he's at as soon as we can actually have bigger gatherings of people and get the signed copy.
Yeah,
right
because
there.
I would bring my books to the conference and then I'd sign them out there. But yeah.
Now, just a little thing. If you're at a con and you have to have the paid line to go see you. Now, if we happen to show up and it's like, my God, it's us, do we get to just jump the line and just come over there and stand next to you?
I would say, yeah, these are my friends, and they just got off a ship. They look human, but
there you go.
let them through.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's see the relics on the wall. Want to pick that brain, and so yeah, we'll talk about the things on the wall there too, on the next one. I'll
bring them out when we talk. I got a statue of every extraterrestrial that has visited me. I have a friend who makes them. Yeah, they're my good ones.
Okay, I'm writing that down to remind us, to have the statues.
Yeah. I'll bring them right out here. One of the artists has died of cancer, Cynthia, but a woman who lives in Nevada, I guess they evacuated. She makes them for me. I tell her who came, and she will make them. And I have every race that I have seen is right there. So to be continued, brother.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Listen, anytime. Yeah. Thanks everybody for welcoming me, and don't get sick and just stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you, sir. Have a great night.
All right. So long, everybody.
All right. Bye. All right, everybody. That episode was brought to you by Nanny Cakes, and here's where I just butcher everything. So it's so terrible. All right, let's see how hey, there we go. Nanny Cakes 407-923-2898. Or go to Nanny Cakes 407 on Facebook. Central Florida area, mention us, and you're going to save 15% off of your cake order. Everybody, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. We are rebroadcast every Thursday evening at 10 p.m. on Zeno Radio app, courtesy of Patriot Radio. Go to jjbeardco.com. Thank them for putting us on there. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com. Three Beards Podcast. That we're also on patreon.com. If you want to become a member there and support Adopt a Beard, hey, we are not going to turn you down. And then check us out on all the social media. Take a couple seconds out of your time. Anybody that's watching, please subscribe, like, follow, share the show. It helps us grow, gets us past any paywalls that Facebook and YouTube put up. So we really appreciate it. It means the world to us. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. So everybody, just want to say thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. And just everybody, we will see you on the next show. Good night.